Hi there. So today we have lesson 5 and we'll be talking about short story. If you don't remember, let's have a look over here. We were starting speaking about the gender analysis. This gender analysis have a lot of, as you can see, a lot of categories. We started with literary genres, and one of them was novel. This this was actually it was lesson 4 novels genre. We were speaking about a lot of them. The Great American Novel, its linguistic features, a specific example from various American novel genres. And now it's time to talk about the short story. So, the American short story, specifically from North American context, is a concise and self contained work of fiction that typically focuses on a single theme, character, or incident. It encapsulates the diversity and complexities of North American life, often reflecting the cultural, social, and historical nuances of the region. Key characteristics include brevity, sharp focus, and an ability to convey profound meaning within a limited space. The American short story has evolved through various literary movements, reflecting the changing landscape and identities of North America. It serves as a powerful medium to explore the human condition, offering snapshots of individual experiences and societal dynamics. Authors of North American short story often employ diverse narrative, style, and linguistic techniques to capture the sense of their characters and settings. From regional tales to stories with universal themes, the North American short story continues to be a dynamic and integral part of the broader literary tradition, contributing unique perspective to the global literary landscape. So we know the American short story genre is diverse, encompassing various themes, styles, and voices. So here we have a overview including classification, linguistic feature, key genres, and of course examples. This could be classified into several genres based on theme, structure, and narrative style. These genres include, but are not limited to, realism, linguistic feature, everyday language, detailed description, key genres, slice of life, regionalism. Example: The Open Boat by Stephen Crane, The Awakening by Kate Chopin. Then we have naturalism, linguistic features, scientific observation, determinism, key genres, story portraying influence of environment and heredity. Examples: To Build a Fire by Jack London, The Blue Odell by Stephen Crane again. Then we have romanticism, Linguistic feature, elevated language, emphasis on emotion and nature. Key genres, tales of the supernatural, exploration of the unknown. Example, Young Goodman Brown by Nathaniel Hawthorne, The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. This is one of my favorites. Then we have Southern Gothic, linguistic feature, dark, eerie atmosphere, eccentric characters. Key genres, stories set in the American South with a Gothic twist. Example, A Good Man is Hard to Find by Flannery O'Connor, A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner. Then we have minimalism, linguistic feature, concise, definite language, understated emotions, key genre, brief narrative with a focus on simplicity. Examples, Hills Like White Elephants by Ernest Hemingway, another of my favorite authors. Where Are You Going? Where Have You Been by Joyce Carol Oates. Then we have regionalism, key feature, emphasis on a specific geographic location, dialects, and local custom. For example, A White Heron by Sarah Orne Jewett capturing the sense of rural New England. Then we have flash fiction. Key feature, extremely brief narrative, often a twist or surprising ending. For example, For Sale Baby Shoes Number One of Judith Ernest Hemingway. Contemporary short story reflect modern societal issues and diverse perspective. Interpreter of Melodies by June Paleri, exploring cultural identity and relationship. Post-colonial short story, key feature, narrative addressing the impact of colonialism and cultural clashes. Example, The Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, delving into immigrant experience. Metafiction, story that self-consciously address the nature of storytelling. For example, Lost in the Funhouse by John Barth, blending fiction and commentary on the writing process. New journalism, key feature blurring the lines between fiction and journalism. For example, In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, a true crime narrative with novelistic elements. Neo noir, key feature modern crime stories with a dark, cynical tone. Example, Red Wind by Raymond Chandler, classic hard-boiled detective story. So we had now key genre and examples: science fiction, The Bell by Bradbury, magical realism, A Very Old Man, William's Wing by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This is translated to English. Social commentary, The Lorry by Shirley Jackson. Historical fiction, The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. Experimental or postmodern, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Le Guin. Then we have some examples of native short story and authors. We have The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilmore Please. This is a very good short story. I encourage you to read it because it will blow your mind. It's very futuristic for his age. An exploration of mental illness and female oppression in the 19th century. The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry, William Sidney Porter, a heartwarming tale of sacrifice and love during the holiday season. The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, a classic psychological thriller narrated by an unreliable protagonist. The Lottery by Shirley Jackson is a chilling portrayal of the dark side of conformity and tradition. A.M.P. by John Updike, a coming-of-age story set in a grocery store, exploring themes of rebellion and societal expectation. So remember, the American short story genre is rich and varied, offering a plethora of voices and perspective on the human experience. So each author brings a unique flavor to the literal landscape. Each of these subgenre, those are subgenre, contribute to the rich tapestry of the American short story tradition. In this way, showcases the evolution and adaptability of the form across different literary movements and periods. This is a compilation of short stories, American short story masterpieces, edited by Clarence C. Strobridge. As you can see, varied and American experience itself, this original treasure reflects the vibrant role of the short story in national literature, American literature. Quality understanding tales by famous American author unfold in settings ranging from the Lincoln family mention of Edgar Allan Poe's dark psychological thriller The Fall of the House of Usher to the bustling modern apartment building of John Cheever Domestic drama The enormous radio, moods and attitudes shift from the dreamy menace of a lynch mob in William Fowler Dry September, etc. etc. This is a very good compilation. And now I want you to actually not show, but okay, you won't watch, but you will listen a short story by Mark Twain, and the name is Lucky. So please listen and enjoy it. Oh, don't forget to answer the question in the forum of the lesson 5.
Luck by Mark Twain. Note, this is not a fancy sketch. I got it from a clergyman who was an instructor at Woolwich 40 years ago, and who vouched for its truth. Signed, M.T. It was at a banquet in London, in honor of one of the 2 or 3 conspicuously illustrious English military names of this generation. For reasons which will presently appear, I will withhold his real name and titles, and call him Lieutenant General Lord Arthur Scoresby, V.C., K.C.B., etc., etc., etc. What a fascination there is in a renowned name! There sat the man, in actual flesh, whom I had heard of so many thousands of times since that day, 30 years before, when his name shot suddenly to the zenith from a Crimean battlefield, to remain forever celebrated. It was food and drink for me to look and look and look at that demigod, scanning, searching, noting the quietness, the reserve, the noble gravity of his countenance, the simple honesty that expressed itself all over him, the sweet unconsciousness of his greatness, unconsciousness of the hundreds of admiring eyes fastened upon him, unconsciousness of the deep, loving, sincere worship welling out of the breasts of those people and flowing toward him. The clergyman at my left was an old acquaintance of mine. Clergyman now, but had spent the first half of his life in the camp and field, and as an instructor in the military school at Woolwich. Just at the moment I have been talking about, a veiled and singular light glimmered in his eyes, and he leaned down and muttered confidentially to me, indicating the hero of the banquet with a gesture, "Privately, his glory is an accident, just a product of incredible luck." The verdict was a great surprise to me. If its subject had been Napoleon, or Socrates, or Solomon, my astonishment could not have been greater. Some days later came the explanation of this strange remark, and this is what the Reverend told me. About 40 years ago, I was an instructor in the military academy at Woolwich. I was present in one of the sections when young Scoresby underwent his preliminary examination. I was touched to the quick with pity, for the rest of the class answered up brightly and handsomely, while why, dear me, he didn't know anything, so to speak. He was evidently good and sweet and lovable and guileless, and so it was exceedingly painful to see him stand there, as serene as a graven image, and deliver himself of answers which were veritably miraculous for stupidity and ignorance. All the compassion in me was aroused in his behalf. I said to myself, when he comes to be examined again, he will be flung over, of course. So it will be simply a harmless act of charity to ease his fall as much as I can. I took him aside and found that he knew a little of Caesar's history, and as he didn't know anything else, I went to work and drilled him like a galley slave on a certain line of stock questions concerning Caesar which I knew would be used. If you'll believe me, he went through with flying colors on examination day. He went through on that purely superficial cram, and got compliments too, while others, who knew 1,000 times more than he, got plucked. By some strangely lucky accident, an accident not likely to happen twice in a century, he was asked no question outside of the narrow limits of his drill. It was stupefying. Well, all through his course I stood by him, with something of the sentiment which a mother feels for a crippled child, and he always saved himself, just by miracle, apparently. Now, of course, the thing that would expose him and kill him at last was mathematics. I resolved to make his death as easy as I could, so I drilled him and crammed him, and crammed him and drilled him, just on the line of questions which the examiner would be most likely to use, and then launched him on his fate. Well, sir, try to conceive of the result. To my consternation, he took the first prize, and with it he got a perfect ovation in the way of compliments. Sleep! There was no more sleep for me for a week! My conscience tortured me day and night. What I had done purely through charity, and only to ease the poor youth's fall. I never had dreamed of any such preposterous result as the thing that had happened. I felt as guilty and miserable as the creator of Frankenstein. Here was a wooden head, whom I had put in the way of glittering promotions and prodigious responsibilities, and but one thing could happen. He and his responsibilities would all go to ruin together at the first opportunity. The Crimean War had just broken out. Of course, there had to be a war, I said to myself. We couldn't have peace, and give this donkey a chance to die before he is found out. I waited for the earthquake. It came, and it made me reel when it did come. He was actually gazetted to a captaincy in a marching regiment. Better men grow old and grey in the service before they climb to a sublimity like that. And who could ever have foreseen that they would go and put such a load of responsibility on such green and inadequate shoulders? I could just barely have stood it if they had made him a cornet, but a captain! Think of it! I thought my hair would turn white. Consider what I did. I, who so loved repose and inaction. I said to myself, I am responsible to the country for this, and I must go along with him, and protect the country against him as far as I can. So I took my poor little capital that I had saved up through years of work and grinding economy, and went with a sigh and bought a cornetcy in his regiment, and away we went to the field. And there, oh dear, it was awful. Blunders? Why, he never did anything but blunder. But, you see, nobody was in the fellow's secret. Everybody had him focused wrong, and necessarily misinterpreted his performance every time. Consequently, they took his idiotic blunders for inspirations of genius. They did, honestly. His mildest blunders were enough to make a man in his right mind cry. And they did make me cry, and rage and rave, too, privately. And the thing that kept me always in a sweat of apprehension was the fact that every fresh blunder he made increased the luster of his reputation. I kept saying to myself, he'll get so high that when the discovery does finally come, it will be like the sun falling out of the sky. He went right along up, from grade to grade, over the dead bodies of his superiors, until at last, in the hottest moment of the Battle of blank, down went our colonel, and my heart jumped into my mouth, for Scoresby was next in rank. Now for it, said I. We'll all land in Sheol in 10 minutes, sure. The battle was awfully hot. The Allies were steadily giving way all over the field. Our regiment occupied a position that was vital. A blunder now must be destruction. At this critical moment, what does this immortal fool do but detach the regiment from its place and order a charge over a neighboring hill where there wasn't a suggestion of an enemy? "There you go," I said to myself. "This is the end at last." And away we did go, and were over the shoulder of the hill before the insane movement could be discovered and stopped. And what did we find? An entire and unsuspected Russian army in reserve. And what happened? Were we eaten up? That is necessarily what would have happened in 99 cases out of 100. But no. Those Russians argued that no single regiment would come browsing around there at such a time. It must be the entire English army, and that the sly Russian game was detected and blocked. So they turned tail, and away they went, pell-mell, over the hill and down into the field in wild confusion, and we after them. They themselves broke the solid Russian center in the field, and tore through, and in no time there was the most tremendous rout you ever saw, and the defeat of the Allies was turned into a sweeping and splendid victory. Marshal Canrobert looked on, dizzy with astonishment, admiration, and delight, and sent right off for Scoresby, and hugged him, and decorated him on the field in presence of all the armies. And what was Scoresby's blunder that time? Merely the mistaking his right hand for his left. That was all. An order had come to him to fall back and support our right, and instead he fell forward and went over the hill to the left. But the name he won that day, as a marvelous military genius, filled the world with his glory, and that glory will never fade while history books last. He is just as good and sweet and lovable and unpretending as a man can be, but he doesn't know enough to come in when it rains. He has been pursued, day by day and year by year, by a most phenomenal and astonishing luckiness. He has been a shining soldier in all our wars for half a generation. He has littered his military life with blunders, and yet has never committed one that didn't make him a knight or a baronet or a lord or something. Look at his breast. Why, he is just clothed in domestic and foreign decorations. Well, sir, every one of them is a record of some shouting stupidity or other, and, taken together, they are proof that the very best thing in all this world that can befall a man is to be born lucky. End of Luck by Mark Twain.